A giant squid should not be real. Not in an ocean where we've mapped continents and launched satellites. And yet the proof exists. Scars on sperm whales, bodies that wash ashore like wreckage, rare footage from the dark where something enormous moves like it belongs to a different planet. So here are the two questions that make this animal unsettling. If it's real, why is it still almost invisible to us? And if it's been here the whole time, what else is living in the same darkness? Because sea monster is not an explanation, it's an alarm. The giant squid lives far from the surface world we understand. It occupies deep water, often associated with the twilight and midnight zones, where light collapses into blue and then into nothing. Depths vary by region and life stage, but the pattern is consistent. This is an animal built for a place where humans are visitors. And that's the first abnormal thing. For most of history, the giant squid was treated like myth because it was rarely seen alive. But rarity is not the same as unreal. In the deep ocean, rarity can simply mean out of reach. We don't spend time there, we don't watch there, we don't breathe there. And the deep does not offer frequent proof. It offers fragments, a tentacle on a beach, a beak in a whale's stomach, a scar pattern that looks like it was made by suction cups the size of your hand. Micro payoff. Even when you never see the giant squid, you can see what fought it. Now look at the body plan. A squid is already strange by surface standards. No bones, no warm blood, a nervous system distributed through arms, a body that moves by forcing water through a siphon like a living jet engine. But a giant squid amplifies all of that. The head, the mantle, the arms, the two long feeding tentacles, the eyes. And the eyes are where normal completely breaks. Giant squid have some of the largest eyes in the animal kingdom relative to what we commonly see. Not because they want to admire scenery, because in the deep, vision is not about beauty, it's about early warning. At depth, the ocean is dark, but it isn't visually empty. There are flashes, bioluminescent sparks, moving shadows, small disturbances that mean something big is approaching. Large eyes collect more light, they detect faint signals, they turn minimal information into survival. Micro payoff. Those eyes are not for hunting first, they are for not getting hunted. And that immediately changes the story. We like to picture the giant squid as the predator of nightmares, but in the deep, there is always a bigger threat. Sperm whales. There is evidence of conflict written on both sides. Whales with sucker scars, squid found in whale stomachs. A pattern of predation that suggests the giant squid is not the apex, it is prey with weapons. Which explains the next abnormal feature. The arms and tentacles are not just grabby, they're engineered for control. Suction cups are not simple suction cups. They can be ringed with hard structures, sometimes with tooth-like edges depending on species and region. They grip in moving water, they resist escape, they maintain hold under stress. And those long feeding tentacles aren't just longer arms. They are strike tools. They can shoot out, latch onto prey, and pull it inward toward the arms, where the grip is stronger and the kill becomes certain. Micro payoff. It doesn't chase like a shark, it captures like a trap. Now, the next problem. How does a creature this big survive on a deep-sea diet? Because big animals are expensive. They burn energy, they need food, they need reliable supply. And the deep is not a reliable supply. So a giant squid cannot live like a surface predator. It must be efficient. It must move when it matters. It must avoid waste. And that points to the true horror of the deep. We don't understand the giant squid well because we don't understand its schedule, when it hunts, what it hunts most, how it grows, how often it reproduces, how far it migrates vertically through the water column. A creature can be common in a place we don't watch and still feel mythical to us. Micro payoff. The giant squid is not hiding from humans. Humans are absent from its world.
Now look at the beak. At the center of those arms, hidden, is a hard beak like a parrot's, but built for a different purpose. It can cut, shear, tear prey into pieces small enough to process. Because the body is soft, but the feeding tool is not. The beak is one of the reasons we know squid are real predators even when we don't see them alive. Beaks persist when soft tissue doesn't. They end up in stomachs, in sediments, in evidence. Micro payoff. In the deep, the most reliable proof of an animal is the part that doesn't rot. But none of this explains the most abnormal thing. A giant squid isn't just big, it's strategically big in a way that makes it hard to study. It lives in a three-dimensional wilderness where is it is a question with too many answers. It can be hundreds of meters down one moment and deeper the next. It can drift, it can jet, it can vanish into black water where your lights only create a small bubble of visibility. And deep-sea lights create another problem. Light attracts attention. You don't just see the deep when you shine into it, you announce yourself to everything nearby. So the giant squid is not only hard to find, it may avoid disturbance. It may change behavior. It may move away from the very tools we use to observe it. Micro payoff. The act of searching can change what you're searching for. Now, the title says nothing about giant squid is normal. The truth is, giant is almost the least interesting part. The abnormal part is that it represents a class of life we are still not equipped to understand.
A large, intelligent invertebrate with a distributed nervous system, a body built for pressure, eyes built to detect faint signals in darkness, arms built for grip and control, a jet engine for escape, a beak for certainty, and a habitat where you can be real for centuries of human history and still be treated like rumor. But there's one more detail that turns the giant squid from rare animal into something more unsettling. Because the reason we kept hearing about it long before we filmed it was never the squid itself. It was what it was fighting. Because the giant squid didn't become famous by washing ashore. It became famous by leaving marks on something we could actually see. Sperm whales. A sperm whale is a deep-diving predator built to hunt in darkness. It can travel down into the cold, pressurized zones where the surface world stops being relevant. It hunts by sound, by echolocation, by reading a three-dimensional map of the deep with pulses of noise. And sometimes it comes back up with evidence. Circular scars, rows of marks, patterns that look like the signature of large suction cups. Micro payoff. The giant squid is revealed not by being seen, but by surviving long enough to leave a record on a whale. That immediately reframes the giant squid. It isn't just a predator, it is an opponent, a creature that can fight back hard enough to scar one of the ocean's most powerful hunters. And yet, the whale often wins, which forces a darker question. If a giant squid can lose to a sperm whale and still be the thing we fear, what does that tell you about the deep? It tells you there are tiers we don't see, a predator and a predator of that predator, a food web built in darkness. Now here's the problem with understanding giant squid behavior. Most of our evidence is biased. We find them dead. We find them damaged. We find them after stress or disease, when they rise or drift. We find pieces of them inside whales. That's not the same as seeing a healthy animal moving normally in its own environment. So when people describe them as sluggish or clumsy, you should be suspicious. Deep-sea animals are often brought up under conditions that distort their biology. Pressure drops, temperature changes, stress increases. Micro payoff. Some of what we call their behavior is actually the behavior of an animal being removed from its world. That is why good footage matters so much, and why it is so rare. Because filming in the deep isn't like filming on land. Light becomes a weapon and a disruption. Cameras and submersibles make noise. Equipment creates vibration. You're not just watching, you're intruding.
So the deep hides from you in a way forests do not.
Now let's talk about the arms again, because this is where normal fully breaks. The giant squid has 8 arms, like other squids, but it also has 2 long feeding tentacles. These tentacles are not just longer arms, they end in specialized clubs designed for capture. They can extend rapidly to grab prey and pull it toward the arm crown where grip is stronger. This is a close-range ambush strategy, but in open water. It's a trap deployed in 3 dimensions. Micro payoff, the giant squid doesn't need a reef to ambush you. It creates an ambush zone with its own body. Then there's the suction cups. In some squid, suction cup rings can have hardened edges that help maintain grip on slippery prey. The mechanics vary by species and remain an area of study, but the broader point holds. The grip is not passive, it's engineered. Now combine this with the beak. A giant squid's beak is a cutting tool positioned at the center of the arms. It can tear flesh into manageable pieces, but the beak doesn't act alone. Squid also have a radula, a tongue-like structure with tiny teeth used to rasp and process food. Micro payoff, the squid is soft everywhere except where it matters most. That is a deep-sea pattern. Soft bodies survive pressure changes better. They require less structural maintenance than bone. They can grow large without building heavy skeletons. But soft bodies need defense. So the squid invests in tools, grip tools, cutting tools, and possibly chemical tools. Many cephalopods use ink as a defensive strategy, though deep-sea contexts vary and not all species deploy ink the same way. But the larger idea remains. In the deep, escape is rarely about speed alone. It's about confusion, sudden changes, disruption. Now the eyes again. People repeat one surface-level fact. Giant squid have the biggest eyes. What matters is why. In darkness, large eyes can detect faint glows and movement. One hypothesis suggests large eyes can help detect the bioluminescence produced by large animals moving through water, potentially including the disturbance created by predators like sperm whales. So the eye isn't just for prey. It may be for the enemy. Micro payoff, the squid may be built to detect the approach of a whale before the whale arrives. That makes the deep feel less like emptiness and more like a battlefield where being early is everything. Now we arrive at a crucial trade-off. The giant squid is built for the deep. That means it's built for cold, high pressure, and low light. But it also means it's built for a world where energy is limited. So it cannot live like a constantly sprinting hunter. It has to balance growth and movement. It has to hunt efficiently. It has to avoid waste. That's why its life history matters so much and why it's so hard to fully explain. How fast does it grow? How long does it live? How often does it reproduce? How high does it migrate at night? How low does it go in daylight? How does it avoid whales? How does it choose prey? We don't have complete answers because the deep doesn't hand out complete answers.
It hands out clues. But here's the twist that reframes the entire sea monster narrative. The giant squid is not abnormal because it's aggressive. It's abnormal because it proves we can have a massive, powerful animal living on Earth's largest habitat and still not know its basic story. We have myths because the deep doesn't behave like land. On land, large animals leave tracks. They leave bones. They leave signs you can follow. In the deep, signs drift, bodies sink, evidence disappears. So the giant squid becomes a rumor even while it exists. And that leads to the question we avoid because it feels too big. If the giant squid can remain mostly unseen, what else is living at similar scales, under similar rules, that we still haven't met? That's the question the giant squid forces into the open. Because the giant squid is not just an animal, it's a boundary marker. It marks the edge of what humans can casually observe.
And beyond that edge, the ocean becomes a place where unknown is not a dramatic word, it's a normal condition. Here's the problem. We keep thinking of discovery as something finished. We've named continents, we've mapped mountain ranges, we've photographed planets. So we assume the ocean must be understood too. But the deep ocean is the largest environment on Earth, and it is still the least observed. Not least studied in theory, least watched. Most of it has never been seen directly by human eyes in real time. That's why the giant squid feels abnormal. Not because it breaks physics, because it breaks our confidence. It reminds us that large life can thrive where we don't look, and we can build entire narratives from scars and fragments. Now return to the whale again, because it completes the meaning. Sperm whales dive deep and hunt with sound. They are built to turn darkness into information. They are, in a sense, one of the ocean's most advanced search systems. And yet, even they come back with wounds. Even they come back marked. So somewhere in the deep, battles happen that we almost never witness. A whale closes in. A squid detects something, maybe vibration, maybe pressure change, maybe faint bioluminescent disturbance. The squid reacts. It uses arms and tentacles to grip. It uses suction to hold. It uses leverage. In that struggle, the squid may not win, but it can make the encounter costly. Micro payoff. The deep ocean contains conflict at a scale we rarely acknowledge. And here is the final reveal. Nothing about the giant squid is normal because it represents a different relationship between humans and nature. On land, if an animal is that large, we build maps around it. We know where it lives, we film it, we name individuals, we track migrations. In the deep, an animal can be enormous and still remain mostly anonymous, not because it is hiding, because the environment is hiding it. Darkness, pressure, and distance form a barrier stronger than fences. So the giant squid becomes a symbol of the deep's core rule. You don't control what you can't observe. And that rule has consequences. If large animals can exist unseen, then ecosystems can shift unseen too. Currents can change, oxygen can change, food supply can change. And the deep can respond in ways we only notice when something rises to the surface. A stranded squid, a whale with new patterns of scars, a change in where predators appear. The giant squid is not only an odd creature, it is a reminder that the ocean still contains living chapters we haven't read. And that is why the giant squid story never ends with the squid. It ends with the deep. A world that can produce an animal this large, this complex, this powerful, and still keep it mostly out of our sight. So when you hear giant squid, don't picture a monster attacking a ship. Picture a real animal doing real biology in a place where the rules are different. A place where light is rare, where sound is everything, where food is scarce, where eyes become enormous to detect faint signals, where arms become tools for control, where the largest predator you know can dive down, fight, and return scarred, and where the most unsettling fact is not that the giant squid exists, it's that it can exist without needing our attention at all.